I stared at the banking app glowing on my phone. The bright light from the screen lit up my face in the quiet office. As I looked at the numbers, I could still hear my father's angry voice from 4 years ago repeating in my head. "No more money for you," he had said loudly. "Not until you get a real job like your sister. No child of mine is going to waste their life gambling on tech nonsense." At that time I had been standing in our big dining room, shocked and hurt. My father had slammed his hand on the table. My mother looked embarrassed. My sister had stood beside him with a proud smile on her face. But that was 4 years ago. Now I am 30 years old. I sat in my glass office high above the city of Chicago. My office was on the 58th floor of Helios Tower. From the window I could see the huge city stretching far into the distance. The tall buildings looked like shiny silver blocks under the sunlight. Cars below looked like tiny moving toys. People looked even smaller. It felt quiet and peaceful up there. But inside my office something very big was happening. I was not gambling with money like my father believed. I was running a powerful investment company. My company specialized in buying struggling banks, fixing their problems, and turning them into successful businesses again. Over the last few years, we have managed billions of dollars. My company was worth $14,800,000,000. And the funny thing was, my family had absolutely no idea. They probably still believed I was working somewhere as a small junior analyst, slowly learning responsibility like my mother always said I should. They probably still thought I was trying to figure out life. But they were wrong. Very wrong. "Miss Hart." My assistant's voice came through the small speaker on my desk. "The First Meridian report just arrived." I looked up from my phone. First Meridian Bank. Just hearing that name made me smile a little. That bank was the pride of my family. My father had served on its board of directors for 22 years. He loved telling people about it at every family event. My older sister Sabrina also worked there. She was the vice president of strategic partnerships. At family dinners they talked about the bank again and again. It was almost like the bank was another member of our family. "Send the report in," I said calmly. A few seconds later the documents appeared on my tablet. I already knew what I would see. My team had been studying First Meridian for months. And just as I expected, the report confirmed everything. The bank was in serious trouble. It had too many bad loans. Many of the customers who borrowed money from the bank could not pay it back. Their technology systems were old and slow. Their mobile banking app barely worked. Customers wanted easy online banking, but First Meridian was still using systems that felt 20 years old. Many younger customers were leaving and opening accounts with modern digital banks instead. And worst of all, the leaders of First Meridian refused to change. They believed traditional banking was enough. They believed technology was just a temporary trend. The bank's stock price had been slowly falling for months. But the board of directors, including my father, refused to admit anything was wrong. Pride can make people blind. My phone buzzed. I glanced down. A message from my mom appeared on the screen. "Sunday dinner at 6 p.m. Unless you're too busy with that little investing hobby of yours to visit your real family." I smiled slightly. It had been 6 months since I last attended one of those family dinners. And honestly, I didn't miss them. Every dinner followed the exact same pattern. My sister bragged about her big deals at the bank. My father talked proudly about his role on the board. My mother hinted that I should marry a respectable banker. And then they all asked when I would finally get a real job. I tapped my headset. "Sabrina," I said. My CFO answered immediately. "Yes, Varela. Where do we stand with First Meridian?" There was a short pause. "Through our offshore companies, we currently control 49.3% of the bank's shares," she replied. "Just one more purchase block, and we will have majority control." That meant one simple thing. We were almost ready. The board of directors still believed the shares were being purchased by many small investors. They believed dozens of different people were buying the stock. But they had no idea that all those purchases were secretly connected. They were all coming from me. I had been quietly buying the bank for months. Piece by piece. Slowly. Carefully. Perfectly. I remembered all the times my father complained about annoying minority shareholders during family dinners. He never realized that one of those shareholders was actually his own daughter. "They scheduled an emergency shareholder meeting next Thursday," Sabrina continued. "They want to raise new capital to save the bank." She paused. "The CEO specifically asked if the mysterious investor named Miss Orvella will attend." Miss Orvella. That name had protected me for years. Orvella was my grandmother's last name. I used it so no one would connect my work to my family. No one at First Meridian knew that Miss Orvella and Varela Hart were the same person. I leaned back in my chair and looked out at the beautiful Chicago skyline. For years ago, I had started with a small amount of money from my trust fund. My family believed I wasted that money on risky technology investments. But instead I used it to start my investment firm. And over time, that small beginning turned into one of the most successful rescue funds in the Midwest. We saved struggling banks. We rebuilt broken systems. We turned weak companies into powerful ones. Execute the final purchase, I said. Timing? Sabrina asked. 10 minutes before the shareholder meeting begins. She understood immediately. I wanted to walk into that meeting already owning 51% of the bank. Full control. Your family will be there, she reminded me gently. Your father sits on the board. We'll review every board seat after the takeover, I replied calmly. Including his. My phone buzzed again. Another message appeared. This one was from my sister. Hey little sis. Heard you're still pretending to be an investor. Want me to get you a real job at the bank? Maybe as my assistant. I slowly breathed out. For a moment my mind went back to the past. I remembered the day everything changed. The day my father cut me off financially. He slammed his hand on the big mahogany dining table. You're wasting your Harvard degree, he shouted. You're throwing away your future on tech garbage. My mother had cried softly and said she was worried about my reputation. My sister stood beside them looking confident and proud. I'll help you find direction, she told me. But I didn't need their help. Not anymore. Sabrina, I said into the headset. Yes. Prepare the takeover team. And have my car ready. Where are you going? She asked. Shopping. Shopping? She repeated, surprised. I smiled. If I'm about to destroy my family's idea that they are better than everyone else, I plan to do it wearing the perfect outfit. After all, First Meridian Bank was about to learn something very surprising. Their biggest threat was not a powerful stranger from Wall Street. It was the daughter they believed had failed. The boardroom at First Meridian Bank was bright and modern. Large glass walls surrounded the long table. The room buzzed with nervous energy. Through the glass I saw my father adjusting his cufflinks again and again. He always did that when he felt stressed. My sister stood near the other executives, speaking confidently as if she controlled the entire room. My mother sat quietly in the visitor section. She looked around carefully, probably searching for wealthy young bankers she could introduce to me later. The representatives from Orvella have arrived, the CEO announced. Everyone in the room turned slightly. No one had ever seen the mysterious investor who had been quietly buying so much stock. I looked down at my phone. 9:50 a.m. 10 minutes until the final purchase. My team was already moving money through international banks. Offshore accounts. Wire transfers. Every detail had been carefully planned. That's a beautiful Dior suit, someone whispered as I sat in the back of the room. Are you here with a board member? I smiled politely. I had been underestimated many times before. Something like that, I replied softly. Then my phone buzzed. I looked down. A message from Sabrina appeared. 51% confirmed. You now control First Meridian Bank. Perfect timing. The CEO stepped forward. Before we begin, he said nervously, I would like to address concerns about our stock performance. Actually, I said as I stood up. My heels clicked loudly against the marble floor as I walked forward. The entire room became silent. Conversations stopped instantly. My father froze. My mother's hand moved to her throat in shock. My sister's confident smile slowly disappeared. I walked to the front of the room and faced the board of directors. Good morning, I said calmly. I am Miss Orvella. I paused for a moment. And as of 10 minutes ago, I own this bank. My father's face turned pale. My sister stared at me in disbelief. Elena, she whispered. What are you doing here? This is a shareholders' meeting. I know, I said. I handed a folder to the CEO. As of 10 minutes ago, I own 51% of First Meridian Bank. These documents confirm that my company now holds controlling interest. The CEO's hands shook as he opened the folder. This can't be, he said quietly. Mrs. Orvella? One of the older directors asked. Orvella is the name of one of my companies, I replied. My real name is Varela Hart, CEO of Orvella Capital Partners. Some of them might remember me differently, as the daughter who was told to finally get serious about life. Behind me my mother gasped. She clutched her pearl necklace tightly. My father looked like he had seen a ghost. This is ridiculous, he whispered. My sister stood up quickly. Elena plays around with apps and BLO. You mean you didn't know? I interrupted. I tapped my tablet. The big screen behind me lit up. Logos of many banks appeared across the screen. $14,800,000,000 under management, I announced. My firm specializes in banking acquisitions and turnarounds. Everyone stared at the screen. Each logo represented a bank we had rescued. Each success told a story of rebuilding and innovation. My father recognized several names. Banks he once mocked. Banks he said would fail. Now they are thriving. And I was the one who saved them. Now, I said, turning back to the board, let's discuss First Meridian's digital strategy. I paused. Or more accurately, the complete lack of one. Someone coughed nervously. My sister tried to defend the bank. We do have a strategy. You have an app that crashes every week, I replied calmly. Your loan approvals still require paper documents. Customers are leaving because modern banks offer better digital services. The CEO cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. Oh, now you want to talk privately? I said. 6 months ago my company suggested modernization. You dismissed us as kids who don't understand banking. My father finally spoke. Elena, honey. Mr. Hart, I said firmly. In official meetings the majority shareholder is addressed formally. The silence in the room was heavy. I smiled slightly. Now, I said. Shall we begin? My mother sat frozen in her chair, staring at her phone. She was probably texting her friends about the shocking news. The first order of business, I said while opening my laptop, is a full review of executive positions, including the board of directors. My sister's face turned white. My father gripped the table tightly. But first, I added sweetly, would anyone like to revisit the definition of a real job? No one spoke. All in favor of adopting the full digital transformation plan? Slowly, every hand in the room went up. Even my sister raised her hand, though it trembled slightly. 2 hours later the old leadership structure of First Meridian Bank had been completely changed. Outdated policies were removed. New strategies were approved. Modern systems would finally be built. My father sat quietly through the entire process. Excellent, I said as I closed my laptop. The transition team begins tomorrow. Expect emails with your revised roles. In the corner, my mother still held her pearl-covered phone tightly. The world she believed in had just completely changed. The last message I saw on her screen before the meeting ended said, "Cancel dinner with Julian. My daughter apparently owns banks now." Meeting finished, I announced to the room. Then I looked around and said, "Everyone except the Hart family can leave now. We have some private things to talk about." The people in the meeting slowly stood up and walked out of the room. Their chairs moved softly across the floor. My sister Sabrina quickly tried to follow them and slip out of the door. "Sit down, Sabrina," I said quietly but firmly. She stopped. "You are not going anywhere. Your schedule just became completely free." When the last person left and the door closed, the room became very quiet. The silence felt heavy, like something big was about to happen. Dad looked down at the shiny wooden table. His face was serious, like he was thinking about something that money and power could not fix. Mom wiped her eyes gently with her handkerchief. Sabrina looked pale and nervous, like she might get sick. I took a slow breath. 3 years, I began calmly. For 3 long years I heard the same question again and again. When are you going to get a real job? For 3 years I was the daughter everyone in the family was embarrassed about. For 3 years I listened to Sabrina proudly talk about her big vice president job while I was secretly buying the bank right from under you. "Sweetheart," Mom said softly, trying to calm the situation. "We only wanted what was best for you." "No," I replied firmly. "You wanted to control me. You wanted me to follow the life that you think is successful." I touched my tablet, and the bank's financial information appeared on the large screen in the meeting room. While you were busy enjoying country club parties and acting like rich royalty, this bank was slowly losing money and dying. Your old ways of thinking almost destroyed a bank that has been here for 100 years. Dad finally spoke, his voice serious. "We were protecting our family legacy." "No," I answered calmly. "You were holding on to the past while the future moved forward without you." I looked at them carefully. "Do you know why I built Orvella Capital using Mom's last name instead of Hart?" They looked confused. "Because the Hart name meant more to you than your own daughter's dreams." Sabrina swallowed nervously. "So this whole thing is revenge?" she asked. I stepped closer to her. My heels made sharp clicking sounds on the floor as I walked. "No, sister," I said quietly. "This is reality. And now I own it. You took over the bank just to punish us? Sabrina asked, her voice shaking. I gave a small laugh. Punish you? No, sister. I actually saved your career. She looked surprised. Saved it? Yes, I said. In 6 months, First Meridian Bank would have completely failed and closed. My investment company has secretly been supporting your bank's stock price for the entire past year. That's impossible, Dad shouted angrily. We would have known about that. I tilted my head slightly. Just like you knew that your daughter was running a $14 billion investment company? Face it, Dad. You stopped paying attention to me a long time ago. Mom wiped fresh tears from her cheeks. All those family dinners you missed, she said sadly. I was busy buying your bank, I answered simply. And honestly, Mom, it's very hard to enjoy family dinners when everyone at the table treats you like you are a failure. The room became silent again. No one spoke. After a moment, I stood up and straightened my charcoal gray suit jacket. Here is how things will work from now on, I said clearly. Dad became stiff as I explained everything step by step. Dad, you can keep your board seat as chairman emeritus. It will only be a title now. You will not have any voting power. But it will still look very nice on your holiday cards. Dad opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. Sabrina, I said, turning toward my sister, you are being moved to our digital banking department. You will start in the entry-level training program. It is time for you to learn how modern banking really works, starting from the bottom. Her eyes widened in shock. You can't do that, she said loudly. I can, I replied calmly. And I already did. And what about me? Mom asked with a shaking voice. You can continue planning your country club dinners, I said kindly but firmly. Just please stop trying to set me up on dates with banking executives. I placed my laptop into my bag. I prefer not to date my employees. As I gathered my things, I felt lighter than I had felt in many years. But just before leaving the room, I stopped at the door and turned back. Oh, and about Sunday family dinners. Anything, Mom said quickly, hoping for some good news. We will rotate locations, I explained. My penthouse is perfect for hosting sometimes. It has huge floor-to-ceiling windows and a beautiful view of every bank I own, including this one. As I started walking away, Dad called out to me. Elena, when did you become so powerful? I stopped and looked back over my shoulder. Memories rushed through my mind. I remembered so many family dinners where I sat quietly while everyone ignored me and acted proud. I was always powerful, I said softly. You just never noticed. The elevator doors closed behind me with a soft sound. I pulled out my phone and looked at the screen. There were dozens of missed calls. Family members who suddenly discovered that the girl they called a failure had actually become a powerful business leader. Then I saw a new message from my chief financial officer. Her name was also Sabrina, the only Sabrina I truly trusted. Her message said, "Next target found. Another family-owned bank that is about to fail." A small smile appeared on my face. I quickly typed a reply. Perfect. Also schedule a cleaning service for my penthouse. I'm hosting Sunday dinner this week. It's time to show my family what their so-called hobby investor has really built. Because true success is not about proving your family wrong. It is about building your own path and defining success in your own way. And sometimes it means letting people realize how wrong they were about you. Revenge can feel sweet for a moment, but real, undeniable success feels even better, especially when it is served with a slice of humble pie at your own dining table. Right there, with a view of the empire they never believed you could create.